Imagine a man unknown to the world who gambled his life to save the planet. This isn't a tale of caped superheroes or mythical figures, but of an ordinary individual who found himself in extraordinary circumstances. His name? Irrelevant. His age? Inconsequential. His occupation? Mundane. He could be anybody. He could be the guy next door, the man you pass on the street, the face in the crowd that never stands out. He lived in an average town, somewhere in the heartland of America. A town where the sun rises and sets with predictable regularity, where the seasons change on cue, where life goes on in its unhurried pace. He was not born with a silver spoon, nor raised with a golden ticket. He was just like you and me, living a life that was as routine as the ticking of a clock. He woke up each morning, went to work, paid his bills, and looked forward to the weekends. His existence was marked by the same milestones that punctuate our lives: birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, and the occasional vacation. He was a speck in the universe, living out his days in quiet anonymity. But don't be fooled by this facade of normalcy. Beneath the veneer of the everyday, there was more to this man than met the eye. A stirring within him, a spark that was waiting to be kindled, a destiny that was yet to be realized. He was a dormant volcano, unaware of the power that lay within him. And then suddenly, everything changed. A twist of fate, a moment in time that shattered the monotony of his existence, a moment that thrust him into the limelight, that catapulted him from obscurity into the annals of history. He was the unsuspecting protagonist in a story that was larger than life, a story that was about to unfold in the most dramatic way. Little did he know that his life was about to take a turn that would change the course of history. One day, he stumbled upon a secret that could spell doom for the entire world. It was an ordinary day, just like any other, yet within the mundane, he discovered something extraordinary, something terrifying, a clandestine plot that, if left undisturbed, would result in unimaginable disaster. Imagine, if you will, the shock, the disbelief that washed over him as he unearthed this secret. It was like a cold wind, chilling him to the bone, leaving him shivering in a world that suddenly felt far less safe. His mind raced, grappling with the enormity of what he'd uncovered. It was as if he'd been handed a ticking time bomb, its countdown echoing ominously in his ears. At first, he didn't want to believe it. It was easier to pretend it was a mistake, a misunderstanding, but the evidence was undeniable, the danger all too real. He felt a gnawing fear seeping into his heart, a fear not just for himself but for the world that lay blissfully unaware of the looming peril. The weight of this secret pressed heavily upon him. He was just an ordinary man, thrust into an extraordinary situation. He had no special skills, no superpowers. He was armed with nothing more than his courage and his conscience. He wrestled with the dilemma that lay before him. Should he ignore what he'd discovered, bury it deep within him, hoping someone else would stumble upon it, someone more capable? Or should he step forward, risk his own safety, his own life, to prevent a catastrophe? It was an agonizing decision, a battle between self-preservation and the greater good. He was torn between the desire to live a normal life and the moral obligation to protect others. He could feel the clock ticking, each second a reminder of the impending disaster, and then, in the quiet stillness of his mind, he found his answer. He looked at the secret, the ticking time bomb in his hands, and he made his decision. He knew he had a choice to make, to stay silent and live, or speak up and risk everything. With a heavy heart, he chose to risk it all for the sake of humanity. Our hero, a man of courage and conviction, found himself at the heart of an unfathomable situation. His discovery, a truth that could topple the world order, was a double-edged sword. It had the power to liberate, yet it also held the potential to cause untold chaos. Knowing the gravity of his findings, he was faced with an arduous task: to expose the truth and risk his own safety, or to conceal it and live with the weight of silence. His decision? He chose the path of valor, the road less taken. He decided to bring the truth to light, to expose the machinations that had been hidden in the shadows for far too long. His journey wasn't easy. He was met with resistance at every turn. His credibility was questioned, his intentions doubted. His every move was watched, his every word scrutinized. Yet, he remained undeterred. He understood that the path to truth is often riddled with hardship. And he was prepared to face it all. His struggles were monumental. He had to give up the comforts of his life, the companionship of his loved ones. He had to live in the shadows, constantly on the run, always looking over his shoulder. His life became a constant battle, a fight for survival. But he bore it all, for he believed in the cause he was fighting for. The truth was his weapon, and he wielded it with unwavering determination. He battled against the forces of deceit, against the powers that sought to keep the world in the dark. His fight was for the truth, for the justice that had been denied to so many for so long. His sacrifice was great, his losses profound. He gave up his life in the pursuit of truth, in the hope of a better world. He knew the risks, he knew the cost, yet he chose to press on, to fight until his last breath. In the end, he paid the ultimate price. His sacrifice did not go in vain. In the wake of his death, the world stood still, as if holding its collective breath. The profound loss of a man who had given everything for the sake of humanity seemed too heavy, too immense to bear. But within the grief, a spark of understanding began to ignite. The truth, once shrouded in shadows, was now laid bare before the world's eyes. His actions had ripped the veil away, revealing the terrifying reality that had been lurking just beneath the surface. The world had been teetering on the brink of disaster, blind to the precipice it was inching towards. But he had seen it, had understood the dire consequences of inaction and had chosen to act. The world was shaken not just by the magnitude of the threat it had narrowly escaped, but also by the realization of how close it had come to oblivion. The shockwaves of this revelation resonated across continents, sparking conversations, debates, and most importantly, actions. Governments that had once been locked in bitter disputes set aside their differences, understanding that the stakes were far too high for petty squabbles. Policies were revamped, strategies reworked. A new era of cooperation and unity dawned, as nations understood that the survival of humanity was a shared responsibility. People started to change too. The man's sacrifice had stirred something deep within them. They became more aware, more empathetic, recognizing the importance of every action, every choice. They understood that they too had a role to play in safeguarding the world, just as he had. The changes were not immediate, nor were they easy. But they were necessary, and they were fueled by the memory of a man who had given his life to ensure a future for the world. His sacrifice served as a constant reminder of what was at stake, of the price that had been paid, and the responsibility that lay ahead. His death became a catalyst for change, saving the world from a dire fate. Today we remember him not as a martyr but as a savior. A man who stood against the tide of suppression and fear, who dared to put everything on the line for the sake of the truth. His legacy is not one of tragedy but of courage and inspiration. The impact of his actions reverberates far beyond the immediate aftermath of that fateful day. It has shifted the course of history, changed the direction of nations, and sparked a global awakening. His story is a testament to the power of a single individual to bring about profound change. His sacrifice has not been in vain. It has become a beacon of hope, a rallying cry for those who refuse to be silenced, who refuse to let injustice go unchallenged. He has shown us that standing up for the truth is not just a noble act, it is an imperative, a duty we all share. His name is invoked in classrooms, in speeches, and in everyday conversations. It is etched in the annals of history and in the hearts of those he inspired. His story is a reminder that each of us has the capacity to make a difference, to shape the world in our own small way. The man who was killed to save the world has left behind a legacy of courage, of resilience, and of hope. He continues to inspire countless individuals to rise above their fears, to speak their truth, and to stand up for what they believe in. His story transcends borders and cultures. It resonates with people from all walks of life, reminding us of our shared humanity, our shared struggle for truth and justice. It serves as a beacon of hope in times of darkness, a reminder that every voice matters, that every action counts. In the grand scheme of things, he was not just a man, he was the man who saved the world. His legacy lives on, a testament to the power of truth, the courage of conviction, and the enduring spirit of humanity.